In this example, we will be calling a method of random. Here are the subgoals for calling a method. For the first subgoal, we classify the method as a static method or instance method. If it's static, we use the class name. If it's an instance, we must have or create an instance. For the second subgoal, we write the method call using the instance or class name, .method name, and open and close parentheses. For the third subgoal, we need to determine whether the parameters are appropriate. This has two parts: the number of parameters that need to be passed, and the data types of those parameters. For the fourth subgoal, we determine what the method will return, if anything, and where it will be stored. And finally, for the fifth subgoal, we need to evaluate the right-hand side expression. The value is going to be dependent on the method's purpose. What does the method do? We want to create a random integer value. We are given the code random rand equals a new random instance. This code creates a new instance of the random class and assigns the reference to that new instance to the rand variable. For subgoal 1, we need to classify the method as a static method or an instance method. In this case, we have an instance method and we have an instance called rand. For subgoal 2, we need to write the method call. So we use the instance that we have, rand, and then we add dot in the method name. The method name to create a new random integer variable is nextInt. And finally, we add the open and closed parentheses. Now we need to see what parameters are needed. To do this, we go to the Java API documentation. We look at the documentation for nextInt method in the random class. Here we can see that nextInt takes one parameter. One pair of words are in the parentheses, and the data type of the parameter is integer. Also note that the nextInt method returns an integer. Here you can also see a description of what this method does. For subgoal 3, we determine whether the parameters are appropriate. And as we saw, that yes, one parameter is required, an integer, and it represents the highest bound that the value can take on. If we want to generate random values between 0 to 99 inclusive, then the parameter will be 100, because the higher bound parameter is exclusive of the values that can be generated. For subgoal 4, we determine what the method will return. We saw in the API that it returns an integer, and if we want to have access to this generated random value, we need a variable to store this value. We will declare a variable called value of type integer that will store this random number. Now, subgoal 5 asks us to evaluate the right-hand side of this expression. Looking at the right-hand side of the expression, we see rand.nextInt 100. This will call the nextInt method on the rand instance of the random class that will generate an integer value between 0 and 99 inclusive. That value will then be copied into the variable value.